The first shot ripped through the silence, and in seconds, 2 lives were gone. But when Andre stepped closer to the bodies, the truth hit harder than any bullet. He hadn't just killed strangers, he had killed the wrong sister. What began as suspicion of infidelity would spiral into betrayal, a twisted game, and a desperate flight into the night. This is a story of love, lies, and a murder that was never meant to happen. This is True Crime's Altar, where every sin is punished, every betrayal has a cost, and every soul must answer to the truth. Like, comment, and subscribe, because these are the stories the guilty prayed would stay buried. Andre Coleman stirred awake from the familiar pressure in his bladder, a nightly ritual that always seemed to strike around 2:45 in the morning. At 41, his body no longer resisted these interruptions. He accepted them as part of life. Moving carefully, he eased himself out of bed, trying not to wake Danielle, who lay beside him with her back turned. Her breathing was steady, curls spilling across the pillow in dark waves against the pale fabric. Barefoot, Andre crossed the room, mindful of the creaky boards beneath him. Moonlight filtered faintly through thin curtains, washing the space in silver. Outside, the Georgia night clung thick with humidity, the kind that stuck to his skin even with the air conditioning humming low. Returning from the bathroom, he caught sight of something unusual. Danielle's phone lit up on her nightstand. She never forgot to silence it before bed. Tonight, she must have. Andre's eyes froze on the glowing message. I miss your lips. I can't wait for tomorrow night. I'll be waiting for you at the usual spot at 8. I hope we'll finally have more time for everything we planned. The sender's name was listed only as J. Andre's chest tightened and his mouth dried. He read the words again, willing them to change, to reveal themselves as a misunderstanding. But the message stared back, intimate and undeniable. His hand trembled as he set the phone down carefully. Danielle shifted slightly in her sleep, but did not wake. Andre studied her face in the moonlight. The cheekbones, the lips he kissed every morning before work. Were those lips someone else's now? He lay awake the rest of the night, thoughts racing like trapped birds. By breakfast, Andre was watching her with new eyes, searching for signs of guilt. Danielle seemed herself, humming along to the morning news, smiling faintly as she slid a cup of coffee his way, touching his shoulder as she passed. Don't forget we're having dinner with Mom and Maya tonight, she reminded him while spreading jam on toast. She wants to go over plans for Maya's birthday next month. You know how she likes to prepare early. I haven't forgotten, Andre answered evenly, though his mind was elsewhere. She left for work in her gray suit, her hair styled neat, looking every bit the picture of composure. Could this woman he'd spent 7 years with really have a lover? The workday was a fog. Andre answered calls, signed off on deliveries at the medical supply company, and sat through a meeting he barely absorbed. By lunchtime, the weight of the secret grew unbearable. He dialed Daryl Carter, his closest friend from college. Can we meet after work? I need to talk, Andre said. Sure, man. What's wrong? You sound serious. I'll tell you later. They settled on a quiet bar on the edge of town, a place Daryl liked for its lack of noise and nosy strangers. That evening, as Danielle finished her makeup in the bathroom, humming softly, Andre asked, What time are your mom and Maya coming? 7 sharp. Mom's bringing her apple cobbler, and Maya promised to tell me about her new job at the clinic. The Green twins shared everything, at least with each other. The doorbell rang right on time. Loretta Green arrived with her famous cobbler, Maya, by her side. Danielle and Maya looked so alike, same build, same curls, that only their clothes and subtle differences in manners set them apart. Loretta hugged Andre warmly. At 60, she still carried the grace of her years as a schoolteacher. Dinner was filled with family chatter, Loretta's stories about neighbors, Maya's impressions of her new job, Danielle's weekend plans. Andre's replies felt stiff, but he tried. Loretta noticed. Andre, you look pale. You sure you're feeling okay? Just tired from work, he said. Men always say that when something's bothering them, Loretta teased gently. Danielle touched his arm, suggesting a trip to the ocean like they'd planned. Maya offered to give him the number of a therapist at her clinic. He brushed them off. The conversation shifted to birthday plans, but Andre's mind was elsewhere. Tomorrow night. The text had said tomorrow. Where was that usual spot? How long had this been happening? After the guests left, Danielle cleared dishes while Andre sat pretending to watch television. She stepped into the doorway, towel in hand. You're acting strange. Is something wrong? Just work. She sat on the arm of his chair, stroking his hair. You know you can tell me anything, right? The irony stung. He nodded curtly. Later, when she went to bed, Andre stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow night, she'd meet him. And Andre knew he couldn't just sit at home waiting. The next afternoon, Andre sat across from Daryl at their usual table in the quiet bar. The dim lighting and soft music made it easy to talk without worrying about ears nearby. Daryl leaned in, concern written on his face. All right, brother, what's going on? You look like your world's caving in. Andre told him everything, the message glowing on Danielle's phone, the sleepless night, the way she seemed so normal at breakfast while his stomach twisted with doubt. Daryl listened closely, not interrupting until the story ended. Man, he said slowly, that's heavy. But listen, maybe you're jumping to conclusions. Andre's head snapped up. Did you hear what I said? That message wasn't a joke. Maybe not, but one text doesn't always mean what you think it does. Could have been a mistake, or, Daryl, it was clear. You don't tell someone you miss their lips unless it's what it looks like. Daryl sighed and rubbed his beard. Okay, say it's true. What are you going to do? Andre stared into his glass of whiskey. I thought about following her tomorrow. If she goes to meet him, I'll know. And then what? What if you see what you're afraid to see? What will you do with that? At least I'll have the truth. Daryl shook his head. Truth don't always set you free, man. Sometimes it breaks you. Are you ready for that? Andre sat in silence, the question echoing. Was he ready to learn his marriage had been a lie? I don't know, he admitted, but I can't live blind either. Then be careful. Whatever happens, don't do anything crazy. Promise me. I promise. The handshake between them carried weight, but Andre knew the storm inside him couldn't be calmed so easily. That night, Danielle mentioned casually that she was meeting a friend from work. Andre nodded, though his chest burned with the knowledge it was a lie. Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow, he would know. The following day dragged endlessly. Every glance at the clock stretched time thinner. Danielle went about her morning routine with her usual ease, kissing him lightly, talking about errands, asking about his own work. But to Andre, every smile felt rehearsed, every gesture tinged with betrayal. Evening crept in, and Danielle announced she was going to take a bath. Andre sat in the living room, laptop open to give the impression of working, but his ears strained toward the sound of running water. 10 minutes passed, then the muffled sound of her voice. At first, he thought she was talking to herself, but the tone made it clear she was on the phone. Andre rose quietly, padding to the bathroom door. Pressing his ear close, he caught fragments. I missed you so much, Danielle whispered. I thought about you all last night. Andre's heart hammered. He forced himself to breathe silently. No, he doesn't suspect a thing, she continued. Yes, I'll be careful. A pause. Then her voice turned softer, more intimate. I can't wait to see you either. Remember what we did last time? I thought about it all day. I want to try what we talked about, too. Oh, it'll be incredible. Cold sweat slid down Andre's back. Her voice held a tenderness and passion he hadn't heard in years. He backed away from the door, legs unsteady, sinking into the armchair in the living room. It was worse than he had imagined. When Danielle emerged in her robe, asking if he minded her going to bed early, he only nodded. She kissed the top of his head, the scent of her shampoo suddenly unbearable. Good night, love. Good night. He waited until she slept, then stepped out into the humid Georgia night, walking streets lined with neat lawns and parked cars. Each house seemed ordinary, but he couldn't shake the thought that behind their doors lay hidden secrets. None, though, as poisonous as the one festering in his own. The following day, Andre moved through work like a man underwater, each email answered and each phone call handled on autopilot. His coworkers spoke around him, but their words barely reached him. He couldn't focus on contracts or deliveries, not when the images of Danielle whispering on the phone the night before kept replaying in his head. By mid-afternoon, his decision hardened. He needed proof, something that couldn't be explained away with smooth words or lies. That evening, Danielle slipped on her sneakers and announced she was heading to the gym. She mentioned she might swing by Linda's afterward to go over a project. Normally, Andre would have believed her without hesitation. But tonight, everything she said seemed drenched in deceit. He kissed her cheek, murmured, "See you at home," then waited a few minutes before following her out. The red sedan Danielle drove turned out of their street, and Andre's heart raced as he kept his distance. The city traffic worked in his favor, not too heavy, but enough to blend in. Danielle did, in fact, pull up at the gym. Andre parked across the street and sat watching, pulse drumming. For half an hour, he stared at the building, waiting. When Danielle reappeared, he knew instantly she hadn't been working out. Her hair was perfectly styled, her clothes unwrinkled, and there wasn't a trace of sweat. She had gone in only for show. She slid back into her car and drove off. Andre's grip on the wheel tightened as he tailed her across town, through streets less familiar, until finally she stopped in front of a small one-story house with a trimmed lawn and garden lights glowing faintly. He parked beneath the shadow of an old oak tree down the block and watched. Danielle got out, smoothed her hair, and approached the front door with the ease of someone who belonged. She didn't knock, didn't wait. She unlocked the door with her own key. Andre's stomach dropped. She wasn't just a visitor, she had access. He sat motionless, hands shaking on the steering wheel, waiting for what felt like an eternity. Lights flickered warmly inside, shadows moving now and then, but he couldn't see details. An hour crawled by. Finally, the front door opened. Danielle stepped out with a tall, broad-shouldered man at her side. His skin was dark, his frame athletic, dressed casually in jeans and a crisp white shirt. Andre felt fire in his chest as he watched the man curl an arm around Danielle's waist. She tilted her head back, laughing as their lips met in a kiss that was slow, lingering, unmistakably passionate. The man pressed her against the wall near the door, and she wrapped her arms around his neck. They kissed like lovers with no fear of being caught, bodies pressed together. Andre's vision blurred with rage and humiliation. His hands trembled violently against the steering wheel. He wanted to storm out of the car, but instead he stayed frozen, forcing himself to wait until Danielle left. The man whispered something in her ear, and she laughed again, kissed him once more, then turned toward her car. Andre started his engine and drove off before she could notice him, desperate to be home before she arrived. He paced the living room, heart racing, every corner of the house feeling poisoned. The image of her laughing in another man's arms burned behind his eyes. How long had this been happening? How could she come home from that and smile at him as though nothing were wrong? When Danielle returned around 10, she looked light, glowing almost, her cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "I feel amazing," she chirped. "The workout really did me good. And Linda and I had a great talk about that project." Andre forced himself not to look at her, mumbling something about already having dinner. She drifted to the shower, humming. The lies rolled off her tongue so smoothly that Andre felt like a fool for every time he had believed them before. As soon as she was gone, he dialed Daryl. "I need to see you. Now." "You sound bad, man." "Same spot?" "Same spot." Half an hour. Andre excused himself from Danielle by claiming a headache, brushing off her offer of medicine. At the bar, Daryl was already waiting, reading his face before he even sat down. "Tell me." Andre relayed everything, her voice through the bathroom door, the fake trip to the gym, the house, the man, the kiss. Daryl shook his head slowly. "So it's not just suspicion anymore. It's real. She even had a key." Andre's voice cracked. "This isn't a fling. It's a relationship. What do you want to do?" Andre stared into his glass, the amber liquid doing little to dull the ache. "Talk to her, maybe. Ask for a divorce. Walk away. Those are sane options. But you don't feel sane, do you?" "No. I feel betrayed. Like my whole life's been mocked." Daryl reached across the table. Whatever you do, don't lose yourself. Don't let anger make you do something you'll regret forever. Andre nodded numbly, but the words only grazed him. By midnight, he was drunk, and still the pain clawed at him. He stumbled away from the bar despite Daryl's offer of a ride, insisting he needed to think. The walk back home was filled with dark thoughts, breaking into that house, confronting them both, making them pay. When he arrived, Danielle was already asleep, curled peacefully in their bed. The sight of her resting on his pillow after coming from another man's arms twisted his insides. He couldn't bring himself to lie beside her. Instead, he went to the garage where boxes of his late father's things were stacked. He dragged out an old safe, punched in the familiar code, and lifted the lid. Inside were documents, some cash, and a .38 revolver his father had kept in spotless condition. Andre picked it up, running his thumb over the cool steel. Memories of his father teaching him to shoot surfaced, lessons in careful aim and respect for the weapon. He loaded and unloaded the chambers, listening to the click of metal, repeating the movements until they felt natural again. The weight in his hand gave him a sense of control, the kind he hadn't felt in days. He sat there all night in the garage, cleaning the revolver, drinking in the feeling of power, thinking of revenge. By dawn, a plan was shaping in his mind, sharp and undeniable. He tucked the revolver back into the safe for now and returned to the house. Danielle was already at the stove, humming as she flipped pancakes, her favorite tune lilting through the kitchen. "Morning, love," she said brightly, as if the world hadn't shifted. "I made your favorite. How's your head?" "Better," Andre answered, though the effort to control his voice nearly broke him. She smiled, sliding a plate in front of him. Andre stared at her across the table and thought about how little time she had left before everything changed. For the next 2 days, Andre carried himself with a calm that was nothing more than a mask. He answered client calls, signed forms at the office, even laughed faintly when his coworkers cracked jokes, but it was all hollow. His mind stayed fixed on one thing: what had to be done. At home, Danielle moved through her routines as if nothing were amiss, humming while brushing her hair, lingering over text messages that she turned away from him, smiling privately in the mirror. Every detail cut deeper, each small gesture confirming his fears. On the second evening, she sat on the couch flipping through a magazine. "We're planning a little celebration for finishing the quarterly report tomorrow," she said casually. "I might be late." Andre nodded, keeping his gaze on the television. Inside, anger burned like coals. Even when she knew he suspected something, she still lied without hesitation. "All right," he replied. The next morning, Andre rose early, moved to the garage, and retrieved the revolver. He slipped it into the glove compartment of his car, the weight heavy in more ways than one. He checked the chamber, the safety, and the grip until it all felt natural in his hands. Every lesson from his father seemed to return with clarity. At work, the day stretched unbearably, every tick of the clock pressing him closer to the inevitable. During his lunch break, he drove by the small house where Danielle met Julius. He parked at a distance, studying it in the daylight. The neighborhood was quiet, sheltered by fences and thick hedges. The perfect place for secrets, the perfect place for what he had in mind. Evening settled, and by 6, Andre was parked once more beneath the same oak trees down the block, engine off, revolver hidden beneath a newspaper on the passenger seat. Time dragged slowly, the hum of cicadas filling the heavy Georgia air. Every car that passed made him tense, every pedestrian made his pulse quicken. At 8, a yellow taxi pulled up in front of the house. Andre's eyes locked on the silhouette that stepped out. Even in the fading light, he recognized the familiar frame, the familiar stride. Danielle. She handed money to the driver and walked to the door with confidence, using her key once more before disappearing inside. Andre gripped the revolver, heart pounding. He sat in the car for long minutes, summoning the last of his resolve. This was it. Either act now or live forever with the knowledge that he had been a coward. Finally, he stepped out, revolver concealed but heavy in his hand. The front door was unlocked, almost as though they were too sure of their safety. Andre turned the handle and slipped inside. The home was small but warm, decorated with framed landscapes and soft furnishings. From the back of the house came faint sounds, laughter, whispers, the creak of a bed. Rage surged in Andre's veins, his ears roaring as he crept down the hallway. A thin strip of yellow light bled from the bedroom door, left slightly ajar. He pushed it wider, the sight before him freezing him where he stood. On the bed lay Julius, his strong frame half covered by sheets. Straddling him, her back turned to the door, was a woman with the same dark curls, the same build he knew too well. They were lost in each other, oblivious to his presence. Julius held her hips, whispering into her ear as she moved slowly. Andre's breath caught, his world shrinking to the size of the room. He lifted the revolver, hands steady despite the storm inside. No explanations, no begging. Just justice. The first shot cracked through the air, deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet struck the woman's back, and she cried out, collapsing forward. Julius's eyes flew open, terror flooding his face. No, please. The second shot silenced him, the bullet tearing into his chest. He jerked, eyes rolling back as blood welled at his lips. Andre didn't stop. The third shot, then a fourth, then a fifth, each one fueled by rage and betrayal until the revolver clicked empty. Silence filled the room except for ragged breathing. The woman slid off Julius, gasping weakly. Andre stepped closer, needing to see her face, needing to see Danielle's eyes register what had come. But as she rolled onto her side, his heart stopped. It wasn't Danielle. It was Maya. Her face, nearly identical to her sister's, was marked by the small scar on her chin from childhood. No, Andre whispered, dropping the revolver. No, no, no. Maya's lips moved faintly, trying to form words, but only a rattling sound came out. Her eyes dimmed as blood spread across the sheets. Julius lay motionless, his chest still. Andre stumbled backward, horror ripping through him. He had killed the wrong sister. His breath came in sharp gasps as he fell to his knees, the weight of the mistake pressing down. He had been so sure, blinded by anger and desire for proof, that he hadn't stopped to consider. In the dim light, with her wearing Danielle's style and walking with her same stride, he had seen only what he wanted to see. Maya exhaled one final, broken breath, her eyes freezing in a lifeless stare at the ceiling. Andre sat there in shock, the room spinning around him. Two bodies, two lives gone because of him. And yet questions clawed at his mind. If Maya had been here tonight, then where was Danielle? Andre's hands trembled as he fumbled more bullets into the revolver, slipping it back into his jacket before stumbling out into the night. He barely remembered the drive home, headlights streaking past as if in a blur. His pulse thundered in his ears. The images of Maya's lifeless eyes and Julius's still chest burned into his mind. When he finally pulled into the driveway, the house stood calm, lights glowing warmly inside, as though none of it had happened. Inside, Danielle sat comfortably on the couch, spooning ice cream straight from the container, the television casting flickers across her face. She looked peaceful, carefree, utterly unaware. When she saw him, she smiled casually. Back early. How was work? Andre stood in the doorway, struggling to breathe. If Danielle was here, relaxed and calm, then what was Maya doing at Julius's house? Did they both share him? His voice came out low, almost hollow. Where were you tonight? At home, Danielle answered, eyes still on the TV. Where else would I be? I told you, I didn't have plans. Andre narrowed his gaze. You said you were meeting colleagues. Danielle turned, eyebrows raised. When did I say that? You must be mixing things up, love. The lies stung like acid. He pulled out the revolver, pointing it at her. The ice cream container slipped from her hand. Andre, what are you doing? Put that down. His voice was steady. I just killed your sister and her lover. Danielle's face drained of color. What? I shot Maya in that man's house. I thought it was you. You're insane, she cried, jumping to her feet. Maya couldn't have been. She froze mid-sentence, realization dawning across her face. Andre's eyes sharpened. Couldn't have been what? Say it. Danielle's lips parted, then shut again. Nothing. She doesn't have a lover. That's not true. I saw it with my own eyes. Her and that man together, just like I saw you with him before. Danielle's silence confirmed what words couldn't. Explain it to me, Andre demanded, cocking the trigger. Don't you dare lie. I've already killed 2 people today, and it won't be hard to make it 3. Danielle's shoulders sagged. She sank back onto the couch, burying her face in her hands, shaking. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. It's not what you think. Then what is it? She drew a shaky breath. We both see him. Me and Maya. Andre blinked. What do you mean, both? We take turns, she whispered. I go to Julius on even days. She goes on odd ones. Andre stared at her, his mind reeling. What? We met him at a friend's gathering 6 months ago. At first, he couldn't tell us apart. Then we realized we liked it, liked confusing him, liked the game. So we made a schedule. Andre's chest tightened, fury bubbling hotter than before. Not just betrayal, but a twisted pact between sisters. And tonight was her night, he said coldly. Danielle nodded through tears. The 31st. Odd day. She was supposed to go, not me. I stayed home. Andre's face twisted with rage. So while you sat here eating ice cream, I was killing your sister thinking she was you. Danielle began to sob. We never meant for it to hurt you. It was just what? Andre snapped. A game? A joke? A way to laugh at me behind my back? No, never that. We never thought. You lied to me every day, Andre cut her off. Came home from another man's bed and kissed me like nothing was wrong. Danielle's cries filled the room, but Andre no longer heard them. His mind spiraled back through the last days, the overheard whispers in the bathroom, the stolen kisses outside that house, the lifeless bodies he had left behind. All of it twisted together into something darker than betrayal. He looked at Danielle with disgust. You're a pervert. Both of you. We didn't mean, shut up, he barked. He scanned the room, brain racing. He had killed 2 people. It was only a matter of time before the truth surfaced, only a matter of time before the police tied it back to him. He needed distance. He needed to disappear. In the garage, he grabbed a coil of rope used for tying down cargo. Back in the living room, he ordered Danielle to stand. Andre, please, what are you doing? What I should have done a long time ago. He tied her wrists behind her, fastening them to the radiator pipe. She struggled, sobbing, but the rope held strong. Don't leave me here, she begged. He ignored her, packing a small bag in the bedroom with cash, documents, and a few essentials. When he stepped back into the living room, Danielle's face was wet with tears, her curls sticking to her cheeks. Where are you going? She choked out. Andre paused at the doorway. Away from you. Away from all of this. What about me? When will someone find me? That's not my problem anymore. Maybe your mother will come tomorrow. Maybe the next day. Maybe not at all. He grabbed a kitchen towel, gagging her with it, tying it behind her head so her screams would be muffled. Goodbye, Danielle, he said coldly. I hope your little game was worth it. He walked out, climbed into his car, and drove off into the dark. In the rearview mirror, the house shrank until it was gone, swallowed by the night. Ahead lay nothing but uncertainty, escape, and a life of running. Behind him, he left betrayal, lies, and 2 dead bodies that would haunt him forever. The Georgia night pressed down warm and heavy as Andre's car sped along the empty highway. Streetlights streaked past in blurs, his hands gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles burned. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't stay. Each mile carried him farther from the house, farther from Danielle tied to the radiator, farther from the blood-stained sheets he had left behind. Yet the images followed him, etched into his mind. Maya's scarred chin tilting upward in her final moments, Julius's eyes wide with terror, Danielle's sobs muffled by the gag. He drove on, but there was no outrunning the memories. Every reflection in the windshield seemed to mock him. Every sound in the night reminded him of the shots that still rang in his ears. The life he once knew was over. Whatever lay ahead, constant running, hiding from the law, maybe even prison, was now his reality. He had sought truth and justice, but all he found was ruin. And as the darkness swallowed him, Andre realized he wasn't escaping anything at all. He was only carrying it with him. This tragic tale leaves us with haunting questions. How well do we really know the people we trust most? Was Andre a victim of betrayal or the author of his own destruction? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your opinions in the comments below. Let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss stories like this one.